What is going on, guys? It is Britania here. I hope you're all having a great weekend. At this moment in time I am in Germany, but obviously I've made this video in advance for you guys. Hope you like it. But this week I know I promised to film my Harpegnathus venator, my Asian jumping ants, but unfortunately I didn't manage to get my hands on another colony, so no panic though. That just gives us something to look forward to in the future. But today I'm going to be talking to you about mould and getting rid of mould in your Formicariums. So guys, when you've finally got your ants and you are making a Formicarium, nest materials should be selected very carefully. Wood and plaster are probably at the bottom of the list in terms of mould resistant materials, while whitong, grout and plastic remain kind of at the top of the list in terms of mould resistance. Mould will potentially grow on any dead organic matter, so despite building like a perfectly mould resistant Formicarium with good ventilation, there is still a risk of mould growth. Ants need humidity and warmth to grow, but so does mould, so it's hard to fight against mould while you're trying to keep your ants in the best possible conditions. Also, ants need to feed, and any kind of dead organic matter that they bring into the nest just gives mould that higher chance of growth. So when ants bring food into a damp and warm, like humid nest, you do have a serious cause for concern, no matter like, whatever the nest is made of. So in that case, today I'm going to be showing you how to reduce mould using examples from my pheidole noda colony. Because my pheidole noda colony, if you guys haven't checked out my introduction video for them, it was basically a video of me getting them and putting them into this little Formicarium which I had made. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link down below in the description. I'll also leave a link down below in the description of the video of me making this plaster Formicarium, so feel free if you've got some time to check those videos out. But I'm going to be using this colony to set some examples on how to reduce mould growth, because I have made a few little mistakes with this colony recently. Let me give you guys a closer look as to what's been going on with the colony and where I went wrong. So guys, this is my pheidole noda colony. They have come quite far since the previous video. They've settled in really well to their Formicarium here. And as you can see, they have a lot of brood. But they've moved a lot of sand in, they've made it very homely. But as you can see from this here, there's a lot of, well, there's some mould in this Formicarium, this plaster nest here. And hopefully today we are going to be reducing this mould and making our ants feel more comfortable in their home here. So as you can see, in these areas, mould has actually sprouted. It appears because some of the nest is dry, the ants have placed their dead into one of the chambers. They have also placed their unfinished meals into some of the chambers. Now this, mixed with humidity, heat, water, is a fantastic combination for mould to grow, and that is what we are going to try and reduce today. So let's go through it step by step, and hopefully together we can prevent mould growth in our Formicariums. Okay guys, so the first step in reducing mould in your Formicariums is to reduce the amount of food your ants will be taking into their nest. Now, as far as stopping ants from taking food into their nest, it can be proven quite difficult. But there are several ways in which you can do this. I would first recommend using mealworms instead of crickets, if your ants will accept them. Mealworms are usually quite large and they are sometimes extremely hard to drag into the nest. they are filled with required juices such as fats and proteins. But if you find your ants are still dragging their food into their nest, then you can tie your food down or stake it down. So I would recommend using a small toothpick, or you can use some metal wire or string just to tie the ant food down to any kind of ornaments in the nest. Or you can use a toothpick to stake through the food and stake into the ground so the ants can't take anything away. Obviously, when using live food, make sure you kill the live food, otherwise that is cruel. If your ants don't accept mealworms, then obviously you can try using crickets by staking crickets or wiring the crickets down. There are some ants that require live food, such as my Pomeranian ants, my Harpegnathus and my Odontomachus. So for them, when feeding them live food, I recommend you be extra vigilant and try and remove any discarded food as quickly as possible, just to reduce any kind of mold growth. So the next step, the second step, is to try and clean out the nest whenever it gets moldy or dirty. Now, when creating a Formicarium, you want to make sure you have a removable lid. Now, this is essential when you have a wooden Formicarium or a plaster Formicarium, because there is going to come a point where you will need to remove the glass and clean inside the nest. With this plaster nest I created, I will move out my pheidole noda colony, and I'll move them out into a test tube, and then when they're all moved out, I will then proceed to block off the plaster Formicarium and clean and scrub inside of their nest. Now, moving a colony out of a nest is just a matter of using a lot of light. I would shine a lot of light onto the plaster nest, and I would cover the test tube with this red film here, so it would look like the test tube is nice and dark, and this would essentially just encourage the ants to leave this exposed nest and go into a much darker one. Now, if you don't have a nest with a removable kind of glass or plastic lid like this, I do recommend moving the colony out still, as I explained before, and I recommend then blocking it off and taking the nest over to a tap and flushing the nest with some cold water. And this probably won't remove 100% of the mold, it will just remove loose fragments. Right, step 3. To feed your ants on a regular basis. It is actually good to overfeed your ants. This is because your ants will be less encouraged to bring the food back to the nest and store it. Whereas if you fed them, I don't know, every 3 days, they would feel the need to bring every piece of food they find back to the nest to ensure they have a sufficient supply of proteins. Now, step number 4. Do not overwater the nest like I did. This can actually cause the mold to grow at a substantial rate, and it can actually overwhelm the nest quite quickly. Now, I recommend, if you can, try not to overwater the nest. The ants will not mind if there's high humidity periods and low humidity periods. Allowing the nest humidity levels to rise and fall will not harm your ants, but will definitely go a long way in terms of stopping the mold growth within the nest. Right guys, step number 5. Providing substrate. If mold grows inside the nest, ants will tend to put substrate onto the mold. Now, mold requires oxygen to thrive. By the ants putting the substrate onto the mold, they are essentially suffocating it and starving it of oxygen. This is probably from personal experiences, this is possibly the best way of reducing mold growth. Now, I obviously, in this nest, this setup, I've used white sand, and this is like quite thin sand, so the ants can pick it up because they're quite small ants. The pheidole, they can pick up this sand and drop it into the nest, and because it's white, it still has a great contrast to the ants inside the nest. Obviously, if you use a darker kind of substrate, you will lose that good contrast to your hands. So guys, with these 5 steps to preventing mold, I am going to try and reduce the amount of mold in my plaster formicarium here, in my pheidole noda nest, and hopefully in the next couple of days there will be absolutely no mold and my ants will have a clean, comfortable home to live in. Alright, I will see you in a couple of days. What is going on, guys? So, after a couple of days, having followed that step-by-step guide that I was talking about, my ants definitely look a lot happier. They've moved into their nest, which I recently cleaned, and I added some substrate to the nest. Now, I basically just added this so they could move it around and perhaps move it onto some mold that might develop in the nest. But other than that, the ants are doing amazing, and they're loving their new home. So I hope this step-by-step guide on how to reduce mold in your formicariums really helped you guys, because it definitely helped me. Let me know in the comment section if you've had any issues with mold and if this actually helped you. So that is the end of the video, guys. If you did enjoy it, be sure to let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to join the colony. Currently we are at over 5,000 members in the colony, which is amazing. And be sure to hit the bell button as well to be notified of my weekly uploads. And click the blue ant if you want to check out my channel and to see more of my videos. Alright, so from myself and my pheidole noda colony here, I hope you have a great weekend and I will see you next week. I wonder if I can move some more plants over. That one looks a bit worse for wear.
How on earth did you just do that? Slide off.
Oh my god! I was trying to move a plant onto the desk.
Did you record that?
Yeah. Blooper!